I am Debi Rutledge. I am the Director of Academic Support and Retention at Rochester University in Rochester Hills, Michigan. So not the University of Rochester. We're a small private institution, total students about 1,200. Go ahead, Madeline. And I loved the definition that Ying provided. I'm shifting gears in a couple ways. One, I'm going to talk about iClicker, but I'm also going to talk about trying to tailor your classroom to be culturally relevant when it's just really a serious mix of folks. So in terms of being culturally relevant and responsive in your education, I have kind of bolded the importance of the students' cultural backgrounds, their interests, their lived experiences. The class you can go ahead. I'm gonna use as an example for this, we piloted a really small pilot with iClicker last spring, but I teach a diversity and cross-cultural psychology class. And this class is a virtual class. So we meet once a week over Zoom for about 2.5 hours. And the last couple of years, I've had about 25 students in the class. This year, I only had 11. Typically, these are non-traditional students, so they're 30s and up, predominantly female. This year, of my 11 students, I think 8 of them were between 18 and 22. So very different population. I actually had 3 white men in the class, which is not common. And they were all younger. That's not common in our counseling classes. And I work at a Christian college. So I'm like, when I'm looking at my roster ahead of time, I was like, oh man, I do not know how this is going to go because I don't know how to predict where these students are. So I had my 3 white men. I had 1 African-American man who was about my age. And I'd had him in class before, so I knew what to expect from him. He was awesome. I had, I think, 4 African-American women and the rest were white women. 2 students like mid-20s to mid-30s. So it was a very different group than what I'm used to. And I'm teaching diversity and cross-cultural psychology. So it's really important to be open to other people's stories. And that's usually my in. And it has worked every time. But like I said, I was really apprehensive. And so I used iClicker. And I decided that the anonymous polling would be the way that I would start, because what I want is to develop a level of comfort with my students so that they can be really honest. That idea of getting to students' lived experiences is really important. So I did a target question, I probably did this in the first week actually, where I wanted them to begin to think about what are the ways when you navigate the world that you feel other, you feel different than the other people around you. And so you can't read all of these, but it's disability, sexual orientation, religion, socioeconomic status, gender, age, race, ethnicity, and culture. So they were kind of all over the place there. So we're setting the stage. I also always ask them as we start the class, what do you hope happens in this class? And what do you hope doesn't happen in this class? And inevitably, every class, what they hope doesn't happen is that, there's no name calling and things don't get all tense and political. And yet we're dealing with really sensitive, for different people. So go ahead and go to the next one. So we set the stage. I'm at a Christian college. I would not, institutionally, we have an open table approach. So we want everyone to feel welcome. You don't have to be a Christian to attend our institution. And we want to honor all people's lived experiences, which means we get non-Christian students, we get Christian students who are considered liberal, and we get Christian students who are considered really conservative. So I decided I probably need to get a feel for where my people are so that I can tailor. So I asked this question just to get a feel for where are you at spiritually, religiously? Are you devoutly Christian so that your Christian worldview informs everything? Generally Christian? Really spiritual, connected to a faith that is not Christianity, or spiritual but not connected to any faith? We get a lot of that, especially with our younger students. Results, I only had 8 students respond. We were getting used to getting onto iClicker at this point. But 4 of the 8 who responded said, this informs everything that I do. And so what I know is this is really important, but I don't know where they fall on that, that whole scale. But it helped me. So where everybody has some sort. As we go on, I wanted to know, as we're getting into the material, we're getting ready to talk about racial identity development. And in the textbook that I use, the authors go out and they interview people on the street and say, what does it mean to be a person of color? What does it mean to be white? And so preemptively, I wanted to ask my students, remember, we're focused on story. This is a really great way to help people expand their perspective. So I asked my students, what does it mean to be a person of color? And here are the results. I'm looking at these results and I can pretty much identify who my white students are, right? Black melanated, probably a white student, doesn't really have any concept of what the lived experience of a person of color would be. Struggling to be an outsider. Those are probably responses from my students of color. I share these results with the students so that they can see, because what I love about this is when they get to reading the textbooks, these are the exact kinds of answers that they're going to read in the textbook. Go ahead and go to the next one. So we asked them, what does it mean to be white? You can go to the answers. Again, you can see, I can identify. What I liked about both of these answers is it's anonymous and the students were honest, right? So I knew just from class interactions that a lot of my white students were feeling very defensive. They're feeling judged. And by doing these and then sharing these answers anonymously, then having the students read the text where they see, oh, so when they're reading in the text things that a student who is part of the dominant culture might tend to dismiss of, oh, this is just woke stuff that they're trying to brainwash me, right? But now they have this backdrop of, wait, my peers said very similar things. Maybe there is something to this, and I'm not just with some crazy liberal instructor who's trying to, take my world away. Very effective. I also ended every class with an exit poll. So every week I asked them what was the most meaningful thing. And you can go to the next one. And you can see this was that week. So being able to express how I felt about being an African-American person in America and how I thought a white person feels as an American, getting to hear everyone's opinions and takes, having anonymous polls. This really helped to open them up to hearing each other. The class was tremendously successful, even though I was terrified. Starting off, I'm like, I might actually have to do some really hard things. And it was good because we established a rapport so that by the time we got to the end of the class, sometimes I would forget to put on anonymous polling, and they were fine with that.